Welcome to the new season for Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your new host, Kyle McIntosh. Today we're going to be talking about the wonderful new Eagles season. We came off the first game with a nice victory. We're going to go against a pretty tough opponent next week. We're also going to be talking Phillies. I got a pretty good team on board. Let's talk about it.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Just like you were waiting for the first game of the summer, you know, it's the first episode of the new year. I got my man Josh Abrams and Alec Costoval here on desk to talk about such a great start to the Eagles season. My God, it was a nice victory. Clearly we won based on my excitement. You know me from last year. I definitely get excited from when Eagles win. And yeah, let's just talk about that game. Like, how do you feel? How's your initial reaction? What is your outlook on the season?
Well, so far the outlook on the season's, it's looking pretty good. I mean, it's only one game, don't get me wrong, but any victory over a division rival, that's a good way to start a season.
Well, it was definitely a win. A win is a win any way we can get it. And, Carson looked really good. He completed 26 of 39 passes, and I'm sure we'll bring the graphic up in a little bit, but he had one really good touchdown to Aguilar, and he had that one little dump off to Blunt for the other touchdown. So, all in all, Wentz had a good game, and that's where it's all going to start this year because he's going to anchor our offense, and he will be the reason why receivers like Alshon and Torrey Smith will be successful. So, obviously, a win to start off the season has you pretty excited for the upcoming weeks. It's all about keeping the momentum going.
I mean, yeah, we're definitely feeling the momentum over here. It's like being able to watch Carson Wentz move around in that pocket, extend those drives. I pretty much said at like the first drive of that game, like, I'm looking at the next Aaron Rodgers here because he looks the same. He's like, you think he's going to go down. You think, last year's Carson Wentz, oh, he's going down for sure. This year, my God, he jumps right in and out of the pocket. He extends those drives, like I said. He's creating opportunities that we didn't have with previous Eagles quarterbacks. And just, like, my God. So, Alec, going back to you, how do you feel about Blunt's first regular season game with the Eagles? He's a Super Bowl champion. We've had some pretty rough running back situations previously. But now, do you think he looks like the running back for the year? You want to see Smallwood? Do you want to see more Sproles? How do you feel?
I feel like I want to see a little bit more of Smallwood this year, actually. Blunt's not your typical running back. He's not a smaller dude. He doesn't have that dynamic speed that you see in a lot of guys like, say, your Adrian Petersons or your Marshawn Lynch or your David Johnsons or guys like that. But Blunt is a solid running back, and I think he gives a nice pass catchability out of the backfield as well, as does Sproles. But I would like to see a little bit more from Smallwood as we get through the year. Let's see some more of those running plays and not more of those kind of like trucking plays, if you get what I'm saying there.
Well, I get you. And Josh, so, we saw Aguilar, like you said, he got his third touchdown reception, opening drive of the game. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about, Jeffrey's utilization so far, the Torrey Smith long receptions that didn't quite make it in? How do you feel about our receiving corps?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I really want to talk about the chemistry between Carson Wentz and Aguilar. You look at the difference between Aguilar and Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey is that Carson and Aguilar have one full season together under their belt. They played, as far as I know, I think they played 16 games last season, both of them. So they have one full season and they know, what each other is going to do, right? You look at the stats from the game. Aguilar had 6 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. And obviously the most notable reception of that game is when Aguilar extended the play, kept on fighting for open space. Not really fighting necessarily, but he he, along with Carson, extended the play, and they were able to get a touchdown there, which is awesome. And obviously, the drop pass motto from last year, I think, is starting to go away, especially when when you're on the road in a tough environment. Any road game, any divisional road game is a tough environment, and Aguilar really came through with just being able to fight through the criticism from last year. As for Jeffrey and Smith, Sunday showed that it's going to take some time for the chemistry between those two and Wentz to be able to mesh together. So, it was the first game of the season. You can't really judge the whole season off of that. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. I know one other thing we got to talk about. You saw it on the screens. Zach Ertz going 8 for 8, 8 receptions on 8 targets. Like, we get to see the great Zach Ertz again, and that feels really good. Like, do you think that he's going to be able to continue that consistency, Alec, or do you think that maybe we better start working Trey Burton into the fray? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think that this might be the breakout season for Zach Ertz. To be fair, I think for the last several seasons, tight ends in Philadelphia have been severely underrated. You go look back at Brent Selleck when he was the main tight end go-to guy. He was getting those 10, 12-yard TDs and was that guy you looked to up the middle. Zach Ertz is this underrated guy who just isn't utilized in the correct manner, but maybe this is the season. I think this is the season that Zach Ertz is going to be that guy that you can target and be like, all right, go-to guy up the middle. So definitely a good thing to look forward to for the rest of the season.
All right, then just going to our general score line. We won that game 30-17. On paper, it sounds like a pretty substantial win. Watching the game, you can see it was kind of hit or miss. How did you guys feel going through that game? Like, what were your thoughts at halftime? Did you think that we were going to be able to come there and actually win it, finish it out? Or did you think that we're going to, where we just going to choke again? So, actually, Josh, I'll go to you.
Sure.
What do you think?
Well, when we got out to that 13-0 lead, I was kind of thinking that it was going to be a lopsided game. I knew going into the season that Washington's offense wasn't going to be the same without Deshaun Jackson, without Pierre Garçon. That's 2 of their best receivers, and they really missed Garçon in those third and long situations where you could just have a slot play and throw it right to him and he makes something happen. So, but then Washington's defense really came about, and Kerrigan had that pick 6, and then all of a sudden it was a game again. It was a classic Philadelphia-Washington game. But the defense really came through when you think about it. They had a lot of tackles. Mills led the way with 8 tackles and an assist, and he also had an interception. So I was very happy with how the defense played. There was maybe one drive where we kept on giving Washington more and more opportunities. I think in the third quarter there was one possession per team. You really don't see that happen too often. So, but other than that, the defense looked really good, and I'm actually more optimistic right now about the defense.
Alec, how do you feel about the way the games went? Do you think that were we too aggressive on defense, not aggressive enough? Were our play calling on offense? Like, how do you feel about all that? Do you think that we made the right mix, or do you think you would have done things differently?
Well, I think the outcome it was. So I think it was a good mix from the defensive standpoint and the offensive standpoint. So I think they did the right thing in what they did, and it depends week to week, opponent to opponent, really. So we'll see in the future for the rest of the season what happens.
All right, so let's talk about Carson Wentz. So we know last year Carson Wentz came off of a hot streak. He went 3-0. He didn't really throw picks in the beginning of the season. Of course, he wound up throwing some in after the league got used to him a little bit. But now that he had a year under his belt, his sophomore season. When you look at his stats on paper, he looks just like any other quarterback in the NFL, which is great. He really hit the ground running. Like I said, we saw that opening drive, touchdown reception to Nelson Aguilar, of all players, who we never really expected to do that. Sure, he threw an interception this game, but he didn't let it get to him. Do you think Carson Wentz already is primed to be that franchise quarterback, or do you think, Alec, that still he doesn't show the Alex Smith or like the Andrew Luck kind of level of franchise quarterbackness yet? What do you think?
he has the potential to do so. And I don't even think it's up to him on what happens. I think it's up to the offensive line. Last year, Lane Johnson goes down with a 10-game suspension, and I think that was a big key to what happened on the fall-off with Wentz in the middle of the season last season. So you look at that, and if the offensive line can keep up, I think Wentz can keep up with basically any quarterback in the league. So we have to see what happens the rest of the season, but as long as the offensive line holds up, I think that it'll be a good indicator of how Wentz does.
All right, and Josh, do you think you want to see Carson Wentz like start to take that kind of game manager route, or do you want to see him just be like just a regular gunslinger quarterback? What do you think the future of Philadelphia as far as the quarterback situation goes?
Well, I think we're very blessed in a way to have Carson Wentz because not only does he have the talent or does he have the work ethic, but he just has a great attitude. He has a great attitude towards the game, towards the coaches, even towards the referees for all I know. He's a very polite young man, and I think he definitely has the material from a personality standpoint to be our franchise quarterback. So there's no worries about that at all. In terms of what Alec was talking about, the offensive line, there's going to have to be a combination of a healthy offensive line and just a normal Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz keeps doing what he's doing. Offensive line stays healthy. No more suspensions, hopefully. Let's hope Jason Peters can, stay on the field for maybe 10 games or so, because I know there's some speculation about that. But as long as those two can combine together, we're primed for a very big season like we're expecting.
All right, and as we know, we had a trade this season for our former starting wide receiver, Jordan Matthews. We picked up Ronald Darby, and unfortunately he's out for 4 to 6 weeks for his first game. Do you think that our defensive backs are going to be able to pick up the slack? Do you think that we're going to suffer defensively? Where do you guys see us going defensively? Do you really feel like Ronald Darby's absence is really going to hurt us, or do you think other people are going to be able to step up?
You hope that they're going to step up. It's really hard to say. You never know, especially when a new guy comes into a system and you expect him to be a very important piece of your defense, and then he's out right away. I mean, it's 4 to 6 weeks, granted, so it's not the whole season. Hopefully someone steps up. I honestly don't know who it would be at this point, but if someone does step up, that's a big deal. But until then, I'd say it's a decent concern for the defense.
When you look at, Kyle, the trade that we made, right? We gave away our best receiver during last season, Jordan Matthews, and got a pretty decent cornerback, I'd say, in Darby. But right now we're going to have to rely heavily on, I guess, Patrick Robinson and Rasul Douglas. And they're young guys. They're definitely not, they don't have a lot of experience under their belt. And that's going to be an issue going forward when we face Alex Smith. Or I don't remember necessarily who we're playing in the next couple of weeks after Kansas City, but it's just going to be very challenging for them to, be able to. It's going to be. I feel like it's going to be hit or miss, sort of, in terms of the way they guess, jumping in routes and whatnot. But I was very, very happy to learn that it was 4 to 6 weeks, because when I initially saw it, I thought it was going to be 4 to 6 months. They're out for the whole season. That ankle did not look very good after he injured it. So, it really stinks that he's not going to be with us for the next couple of weeks. But then again, you look at it from the perspective of it could be worse. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know one thing that has me really motivated after this game is such a strong front on the defensive line. I mean, Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox really just firing on all cylinders. It was great to really see that starting again. Do you think that they're going to be able to keep that momentum going, Alec, during that time period while we're waiting for Darby to come back, while we're waiting for Sidney to come off of his injury, get his start? Do you think that they're going to keep going, and do you think Malcolm Jenkins is going to be able to still play with those young guys up front?
Well, especially going back to Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox had a great game on Sunday, and last season he had one of those off years, especially for the amount of money he's getting. But this is a really good indicator for me about where he's headed. He's supposed to be a star on that defensive line, and he's starting to look like that star on that offensive line, or defensive line. And hopefully that happens for the rest of the season. But, you know, he's going to have those off games here and there, but he might be that dominant defensive line that we need. I can't speak to the rest of them, but I feel like Fletcher Cox may finally live up to that big money contract that we paid him.
And I want to be able to go to the picks that we all made. We know we're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. They came off of a pretty impressive victory against the Patriots. As you can see, I called the Chiefs winning 24-3. Alec called the Chiefs winning 24-21, and Josh is the only one that held out for our boys on 24-21 as well. How do you I know we both agree for the Chiefs. Alec, let's start with you. Josh, let's start with you because you chose the Eagles. What do you see the Eagles doing that the Patriots couldn't do?
The biggest difference that will take place in Sunday's game is Eric Berry. He's done for the season. That means that either Alshon Jeffrey, which is my MVP, or Torrey Smith, one or the other, is going to have a huge game. Jeffrey last game only had 3 receptions for 38 yards. That's not going to cut it against a Kansas City team that can keep up with us or even outscore us. And the reason why I picked it to be 24-21, and I'm calling it right now, Jake Elliott kicks the game-winning field goal. That's it.
All right. So, you're in my camp. It's unfortunate that we see it this way, but why do you see the Chiefs taking it home?
The Chiefs had a dominant win against the Patriots in the opening week. Yes, the loss of Berry is huge, but I feel Kansas City's defense can step up still. That's why I picked my MVP to be Justin Houston. I think they're going to put pressure on Wentz, and if they let the pressure crack that offensive line, we're in for a tough day. So that's why I picked the Chiefs, just edging out the Eagles 24-21.
All right, and Josh, last question before break, we'll go to you. So you saw Alex Smith's crazy performance, 4 touchdowns, over 400 yards. Who do you think on our defense can actually stop him?
Well, I would have to go with Jordan Hicks. He had 5 tackles last game. And when you look at the front 7 that we have, yes, I'm talking about Hicks here, but it's the defensive line that's going to have to step up because of the lack of offensive line the Chiefs have compared to the Redskins. So that's my idea there.
All right, so that's all for Eagles Talk. We're about to hit you with a little commercial break. When we come back, we'll be talking Phillies, and then we're going to finish the show with Fast 5. See you then.
Today, a new creature walks among us, terrorizing innocent citizens. Until this threat can be contained, we must all be on the lookout for the dreaded digital deadwalkers.
Dude!
They're not looking out for you.
Engage!
A public service safety message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, who want to keep everyone well connected with strong, healthy bones.
We've all seen stories of conflict that ended with peace. We've seen stories of hunger end in abundance. We see stories of fear, despair, and poverty, but they can end with courage, hope, and love. With you. Be a part of writing a story that's greater than poverty. Learn how at worldvision.org.
So welcome back from the commercial break. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to talk about the Phillies. It's been a pretty rough season so far, but they've shown signs of actually improving. So I'm going to kick it right to Alec. How do you feel about our prospects coming up? Do you think that they're going to be able to change the narrative of the Phillies?
Well, look at Rhys Hoskins. He's already changed the narrative of the Phillies. The Phillies have been one of the most lackluster teams in hitting home runs this season. Tommy Joseph leads the team with 21 home runs, Franco with 20. But Rhys Hoskins, he was called up on August 10th. Through 33 games already, has 17 home runs. That is the most in Major League Baseball history through the first 33 games, and it's not even close. He could go out another 8 games and not hit a home run and still have that lead in the books for if he hits his 18th. It's been outstanding what he's been able to do, but not only him. You've been looking at some of the younger guys changing the game too. Aaron Nola had a streak of 10 starts where he was almost unhittable, less than 2 earned runs in over 6 innings pitched. That's very impressive, especially for last season when hardly any Phillies pitcher could go past the 5th inning, let alone the 6th. Who else? Jorge Alfaro has been solid behind the plate since his call-up, but he still needs a little work. Nick Williams has been great in his rookie season. He's hitting around 280. I think he has about a dozen home runs now, but he has a lot of raw power that he has yet to tap into. So you're looking at that too. And then there are guys still not up on this roster who could potentially be impact players. Scott Kingery would be the closest one. He had an outstanding year in AA and AAA. Sixto Sanchez still in, I believe, High A, but stuff that's been compared to Pedro Martinez. There's a lot of promise on this team, and I'm excited for next season.
All right, so Josh, I'm going to kick it to you. Alex feeling pretty excited over the next season. How does that make you feel? I heard a little bit about Rhys Hoskins. He's feeling pretty mythical so far. Do you feel the same way as Alec does? Like, give me your thoughts.
Absolutely. And when you look at Rhys Hoskins, right, obviously he's broken the MLB record for fastest to 11 home runs, 12, all the way up to 17. The reason why he's doing so well, and Alec, you probably noticed this too, is that this is a raw power hitter who has one of the most amazing work ethic at the plate. He has so much plate discipline. You rarely ever see him swing at the first pitch whenever he comes up to bat. So that's the biggest reason why Hoskins is doing so well, is because he waits and he waits, and he gets the count to 2-2, even a full count, and he just finds his pitch and smashes it to the second deck. He'll probably knock down one of the letters from Harry the K's, for all we know. But then you look at the other prospects. Nick Williams, I saw his first career home run, and he fought off, I think it was, an inside pitch or outside pitch to left field for his first career home run, and that was amazing. He's also very speedy. He could be a very big threat on the base paths as well as at the plate, because he can just smack the ball into the gap and it's an automatic triple. You look at Jorge Alfaro, his batting average is very high, so obviously he knows how to hit the ball, but as Alex said, he's going to need to start working on being able to command the game from behind the plate. And then who was the fourth one? J.P. Crawford. He showed some pretty good signs when he played, I guess it was against the Mets, right? I could see him filling in that shortstop spot, and maybe we could even move Galvis over to second. The team right now we don't know where our position players are going to be quite yet, but I feel that being as young of a team as we are, we can move people around, and they would be just completely okay with it. There's a lot of lenience when it comes to rebuilding this team, and I think within the next 2 or 3 years we could be playoff contenders.
So last question about the Phillies, Alec. So Josh just said next couple of years be playoff contenders. Believe it or not, it was almost 10 years ago where we were World Series champions. Do you think that it's going to take a while for us to get back to that level of going almost back to back? What do you think?
I'd give it 3 seasons. Right now, I think the Phillies have the position players that they need. I think they need to buy pitching, and once they buy some starting pitching for next season, they might see themselves in playoff contention. So it should be soon.
All right, so that sounds pretty good to me. I can't wait to see some good Phillies games again. But we're going to go ahead and start my favorite segment, Fast Five, where now I get to ask you guys 5 quick questions, and I want good, quick answers. So the first question is coming to you, Alec. What do you think what happens in the logjam middle infield here on the Phillies?
Ultimately, although a lot of people don't want to see it, Freddie Galvis is going to have to go. There's really no space for him unless he wants to take a bench role as a veteran player. So ultimately, he's out. Cesar Hernandez might end up being traded, but he's hitting, 280, 290, and has been better on the base paths. And it's really hard to see him go, but it might be what has to happen for Scott Kingery to take second base, for Crawford at shortstop, and ultimately maybe Manny Machado at third base once he becomes a free agent.
All right, Josh, the next question's coming to you. How many more home runs do you think mythical Rhys Hoskins is going to be able to hit?
Well, we have about 30 games left, and at the rate he's hitting, I could see him finish with about 25 home runs on the season. So that's my prediction.
25 more homers, nice. All right, Alec, and so now that Ronald Darby is out, it's an Eagles question, that's right. What do you think the season's going to be without him?
I think it still is a positive season. I think you're going to see a 9-7 team. I think at the beginning of the season could have been 10-6 or 11-5, but now you're looking at edge of playoffs. So you really have to see some of the other roles fulfilled on this team, not just from the defense. You have to see the receiving core with Alshon Jeffrey and everyone else just pan out. So it's going to be rough.
All right, and Josh, so this is the first question we talked about this team on this, this episode. But Sixers, what do you think is going to be crucial to a successful Sixers season coming up?
Well, with the acronym the Feds, Fultz, Embiid, Dario, and Simmons, those are the key players that are going to have to be, healthy. And when you talk about health, it's going to have to be Joel Embiid because he started trust the process, right? So if he's healthy, if he can be on the court for, let's say, 60 games, then that's what's going to be crucial to the Sixers' success this season.
All right, and last question, Alec. Who is your favorite prospect left on the minors?
Oh, it's easy. It has to be Scott Kingery. He showed five-tool talent with speed, developing power this year, and a great contact hitter. So next season, he might push Cesar Hernandez out of the starting role at second base. We'll have to see.
All right, that sounds pretty good to me. It's been a pretty fun, exciting show here in my first episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. Once again, I'm your host, Kyle McIntosh. Go ahead and follow us on social media on Twitter, LaSalleTV_SP. And here is the rest of our social media accounts. Please follow us all. We will post all the episodes that we are going to have here on Sports Talk Philadelphia. Thank you for watching. See you next week.